Hey there guys, hope all is well. Academy.fm. Today I want us to talk about basically mastering my track that I have here within 10 minutes. With that being said, I'm not saying it should take you 10 minutes every time you master your track. Every project, every record is going to be different. Sometimes it takes me a couple days to do a mix master and a final product, but once in a while it'll take me a nice 10, 20, 30 minutes just because I have my mix down locked in, and it makes it easier for you in the end stages right when you're mastering to kind of put the cherry on top and just develop a couple things in order to get it louder, stereo imaging, maybe a little compression that you need, and so on. So that's what we're going to do today, and we're going to exclusively use iZotope's plugin Ozone 6. So I'm going to open that up now on my master channel before we get going, and I'm just going to open up the full one here so we can have everything in one box. And you guys can see it opens up a bunch of stuff for us here. I'm going to start from scratch, so let's get rid of all this and I'll start building it out as I go. And I'll just play the song for us so we can get familiar with it and we can go from there. Okay, so that's the song. Again, I feel confident in the mix down. I feel like I did a great job in mixing everything together, you know, balancing my layers, percussion, etc. And I feel like it should make an easier step going to my master channel, making everything just easier to kind of wrap up. So let's start out with our EQ stage. I'm going to open up a EQ here. First thing I always start with is trying to find any huge peaks or a little bit too much going on in the mid-range or the high range. Overall, I feel like my lows are good. I'm always looking for just a little bit too much going on in the frequency of the mid. Usually when I'm producing dance music, I find myself really loading a lot of 500 to 7 hertz range, even up to 1K. It gets a little busy in there. So right away, I open up an EQ to look at what's going on in my mid-range. Okay, very subtle details. Right away, that's where I start on my kind of compressor chain, looking at what's going on as far as any frequencies. Sometimes there's going to be a load of stuff, depending, again, how well you do on your mix down, right? So keep that in mind. We're at this stage. If you guys are having issues with getting this done like we're doing here, you could be bumping into mix issues. And as I've said before in quite a bit of my videos, the most important part of your record, in my opinion, is your mix down. And I'm sure most of you guys realize that, and it's not the easiest thing in the world to balance, right? So really focus on getting everything balanced before we even get to the stage that we're at here. Let's now open up a compressor. Okay, right away you could hear a huge difference. I go band by band here and compress each section slightly different. My low end is a little bit differently compressed than my mids, my highs, and etc. I'm doing a little bit different compression. And you guys can see what I'm usually looking for is that little bit of red, that little bit of peak reduction. I don't want to go too much further with compression on that each band. You don't want to kill it too much there. You want to be really careful with that. And I'm going to sweep this over to usually about the 200 range. And you guys can hear when we talk about over compressing something, this is what you're going to hear. I can't even say, unfortunately, how many records I've heard that go that route. And sometimes as a producer, artist, you don't even realize it, right? You get so caught up in the track that you're not even realizing how overcompressed a certain sound is or your master, but you really got to look for killing your dynamics, and that's what you're going to hear when you do that. So be very careful in the compression stage. just to hear those on and off here. Very subtle detail, but with the compression, we're getting a little bit of that nice warmer effect. Very subtle, a really tight percentage of it, but it's going to pay off here when we get to our next few stages with doing maximizer and pushing the limiter a little bit to get an extra dB or so. I believe we're at -8, -9. I want to try to go for the -7 range. I don't need this track at -5. I don't want it to be extremely loud. I'd rather have it clean and pumping overall with a nice rounded output rather than kind of something that's extremely loud. And that's what you're going to have to find the balance of when you're mastering a song. Do you want something extremely loud and kind of have a little bit of crunch and overdriven, or do you want something a little bit lighter and have a cleaner, tighter mix down so you can hear everything and have clarity? That's what I'm going to go for here. Okay, let's open up a limiter now, or a maximizer in other words. I always go to IRC2. I'm going to use that for right now, and I'm going to push this down a little bit here until I get a little bit more overall output. Okay, I don't want to go too much further. You guys can see on the graph of where it's peaking, usually from my chords. My chords are really in the mix sound. Those are driving pretty hard, so that's where I'm getting my kind of loudest value there. Even though my top leads are perceived the loudest, you can hear them really loud, but the driving mid-range that I was talking to you guys about in the beginning with the EQing, I do have a lot of mid-range, and that's coming from my chords here in the mix. So you guys can see the layers I have there. There is a good amount of stuff going on. That's going to push that mid-range and kind of push the limiter too to fight that section. Now I want to put an exciter on, which will give a little bit more overall sound and kind of a nice shimmer, I would call, to the mid-range and the high end. It'll just let us hear a little bit more. So let's open up an exciter. So see how much more value that brings to the record, specifically from that 2K and up. You guys can do that in the mid-range if you want, but the reason I'm not exciting my mid-range is because I feel like it's already excited. You know, it already has the chords driving in there. I don't need too much more going on. I don't want to make my mid-range sound like a high-frequency mid-range. You want this to be kind of the warm section with your lows. You don't want too much going on here as far as excitement. That's why I'm doing my 2K and up, to give a little bit more of an open sound. I always put my low end completely in mono with this one band. This being stereo, this will be full mono, and I usually start around 250 hertz and I work my way down. You'll hear the entire low end that's there, that's going to be in mono. There's a lot there. So I'm going to take it pretty high and I'm going to work down until I feel that low end kind of as tight as it needs to be in mono. I'm liking it there. Let's just check in mono now, the entire record. All right, you guys can see we're at about -7. I could go a little louder, just a pinch there, maybe get over -7, but again, I'm looking for a cleaner record rather than a louder one. All right, so that's feeling really nice. Let's take all that off, and you guys should hear Listen to the overall warmth too. You know, what the compressor did. Obviously, we're getting dB output. We're getting a louder, 3 dB we gained from the mix. But overall, you need to really focus on, does your record need warmth to it? Is it missing a mid-range? Is it missing that excitement we put in the 2K and up? That's stuff you have to really look for. To me, that's a huge difference right there in an overall mastered track. It feels more balanced. It feels like I'm at the loudest I need to be. Again, I'll say it one more time. It's really going to come down to your mix down, guys. I think the mix here is sitting well, and it gave me about 10-15 minutes to quickly wrap up and master. Now, again, this isn't how I do every master track. Sometimes it could take me a couple days to master track, 30 minutes. Every single song I'm doing and you're going to do is completely different. So don't rely on just saving this master chain and then plugging it onto your, putting it into your next track, copy, paste it over. I don't recommend doing that because you want to give every record a certain character to the master channel along with what you're doing in the mix down. That's what makes every song unique, right? So make sure to keep in mind that every track needs a different master channel. But that's it for today, guys. That's mastering right inside iZotope Ozone 6. Definitely try it out and give it a shot on your next record. Let us know if you have any questions. Take care. We'll see you soon.